No, but there always are.
Yeah,
They will percolate up over the next few weeks. They always are some. We'll spend time.
I'm sure the school building committee will be
Probably
making some
Energy
update.
Study Committee.
Find out tomorrow evening,
Hmm.
we have a meeting. Article 3?
Article 3 is acceptance of easements. These are gifts that are given to the town from the public related to easements that the town requires. So there's no money involved, nor is the town purchasing any other easements. Those will require a separate item of town meeting. This is a routine article.
Dick, do you have anything to add on that? No? Okay. If I'm up, I might as well, if we can keep it sort of consistent, I'll take 3 as well.
Oh, you got a bunch of authorizations.
Yeah, you should,
Gotta delegate.
yeah. You got more coming.
I got more coming?
Omnibus article.
What's that?
Nothing.
I'll take 3. Article 4?
Entering into compensating balance agreements. This is a routine article that in lieu of the town paying banking fees, we establish what's called a compensating balance relationship with our banks, and therefore we avoid banking charges, so there's no monies that are involved.
Anything from the board members? No? Anything from the public? Hearing none? Mr. Fode, it's a good one to get your feet wet.
Thank you.
It's a winner.
Article 5?
Article 5 is our annual authorization to receive and expend Chapter 90 road construction monies. These are monies that are granted through the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Dick, my understanding the amount is $493. What we typically like to do is if we just like to mention the fact that those monies have been received. I understand that there's still some concern about whether those monies will be available at the start of the fiscal year.
Right,
But
the FY 13 money is held up in the transportation bond bill.
Anything from the board members? Anything from the public? Hearing none? Mr. Fode?
Yes.
Somehow I knew you'd end up with an
It's very appropriate.
Article 6?
prior year bills. This is a routine article that we include on the warrant every year. It requires a four-fifths approval of town meeting. It's one of the quirks in state law. To this point, we have bills totaling $14,727, which is between unpaid medical bills, which would be for our disabled police officers and firefighters, but the majority of this relates to unemployment charges that have been incurred and we do not have monies to pay. The source of funds would be from free cash.
Any comment from board members? Comment from the public? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, good.
No? You?
Good.
Ms. Fode, you can take 3 in a row.
Who's doing 6?
Joe.
I can do 7 too.
Article 7?
You gonna take care of 7, Joe? May as well. Operating budget?
I'll do the whole thing.
Yeah, I did the whole thing.
Article 7?
7 is the fiscal 2013 operating budget. Just in terms of procedure, what we try to do is we try to accomplish this in 2 votes. The first vote is all of those items requiring a 2/3. Those items requiring 2/3 vote would be our debt budget, because we have a transfer coming from the debt stabilization fund to offset that. The second budget that requires a 2/3 vote would be sanitation. And the reason why we have to include sanitation in there is a portion of the monies that are coming from the solid waste stabilization fund. And because it's a stabilization fund, anything in or out of the stabilization fund requires a 2/3 vote. So what we typically do is we isolate those 2 items. We bring those forward to town meeting in the forms of a 2/3 vote on those items. And then all of the other remaining items within the budget, if town meeting permits and the moderator permits, we consolidate into a single motion. The single motion will include all of our general fund accounts, which are laid out here. It'll also include our enterprise funds and related debt service for those. What is not included in there is there's some things that we don't vote on at town meeting. For example, if you want to go and you want to look at the beginning of this, go to the page page 4.
Hmm?
Page 4. And if you look at the bottom line where it says unappropriated and other shared costs, some of those items such as regional school assessment, debt service, keep in mind that the math, although it seems really simple and straightforward, when we roll up the budget motion, there are some things that are included and there are some things that are not included. Those ones that are shown on this bottom line, there are some unappropriated costs that we do not vote at town meeting. So if you look at the budget motion, you try to do a quick math calculation, it's not quite that simple. The Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee, getting back to the budget, have agreed, along with the school committee, with the recommended budget. The recommended budget is based upon the revenue plan, which is shown here in the front of the budget book on page 3. So that is the revenue plan necessary to fund all of our costs.
And at this point, you're going to do the budget presentation.
I am gonna do the budget presentation.
And I'll do the article.
That'd be great.
Any comments from the board members? Anything from the public? Okay. Article 8.
Article 8 is, we have some items in the budget which we are funding with free cash. That would be $200,000 in one-time expenses on the school department side. Liz, do you have the listing of the other ones? I don't have it in front of me. Could you read off what those are? Thank you.
Do you want me to read them?
Yeah,
Let's use the podium, it's,
The one-time costs funded from free cash would be the assessment center under the town administrator's budget of $14,000. Police department cops fast payment of $32,000. Accounting consulting services of $15,000. And some various ALS costs, which do we have the total of those? The ALS costs are confusing because then that we're doing a transfer in from ALS, so it's $92,723 of fire department one-time expenses, which is a total of $153,723 for the town side and $200,000 for the school side.
so to just point out, if you look at the description under Article number 8 on page 27, the correct amount is $353,273, correct?
723.
723. You're right.
353,723.
353,723.
Okay, not 405.
Now, what the 405 is, we had not netted out the $52,000 transfer from the fire department reserve account, and that's the difference between the two.
Mr. Lucero?
The 92,000 for ALS is intended to come out of fire department revenue in October, correct?
That's right.
To compensate for this. This is a case where we don't have the money at this point that
How true?
we can get to.
How true?
Any other
Which
comment?
is-
Oh,
Which is a little different than the way I thought it worked. In other words, the ALS revenue for the year is accounted the following year. So the money's there, but we don't have access to it.
Anything else? Article 8, board members? You do? Greg?
Just, if you can close out Article 8, I just want to do a go back on one of the articles, just to give you an updated dollar amount.
Anything from the public on Article 8? Mr. O'Leary, you ready?
I'm good.
All right.
Always doing it. Steve?
Who's on first?
Who's doing that one?
Mr. O'Leary.
Oh, me? Okay.
Stephen. Just to go back on Article 4, special town meeting on page 6. The correct amount, which remaining in free cash would be $5,262.81.
262.81.
5262.81. It's a little bit less than we said. We're close. Thank you.
Article 9.
Article 9 is funding 2 items in the capital expense, which is updating the water master plan at $97,000, and the replacement of 2 vehicles in the water department for a total of $82,000. I just wanted to note, the reason why we're doing this is we've not had sufficient funds in the water fund to really do any type of capital improvement or capital purchasing, so these are items that have been deferred. Typically, what we try to do is we try to have most of our capital budget be presented at October town meeting. So this is not the total capital budget for fiscal year 2013. The majority of that is going to be coming up in October.
So question,
Mr. Messeri.
Mr. Chairman. The update of the water master plan, the intent is to take it out of the water infrastructure fund, of which there should be some money going back in as a result, not necessarily for June, right, but for October town meeting?
Yes.
Because of the surplus in the water.
Once the water fund is closed out on June 30th, Liz will prepare a balance sheet. It'll get submitted to DOR, and DOR will certify the retained earnings in that account. And monies may be voted on at town meeting in October to be restored back into the water infrastructure fund.
Okay. Replacement of vehicles, what is the intent there?
I'm going to defer to Dick on that with the replacement of the 2 vehicles in the water department.
Not the, I'm not interested.
Oh, you're talking about source of funds?
Yes.
Borrow.
That's what he said
Borrow.
last
Borrow or
meeting.
chargeback?
Borrow, charge back to the water enterprise fund.
Okay.
And likely, fund it from retained earnings before we go to permanent borrowing. The intent would be to just do it small, short-term, gap financing, because again, there's not sufficient revenues in the water fund until we get to beyond the end of the fiscal year, and then look to perhaps fund that from retained earnings at a later date.
And these vehicles solely need to be replaced, can't wait till October?
No, they need to be replaced now.
They
and-
needed to be replaced 2 years ago.
Yeah, these vehicles that typically stay in our fleet for 10 years, so it's not as though they're in and out real quick.
Mr. Prisco.
Just to make sure I fully understand it. We're gonna have some retained earnings. The retained earnings is based on how we set the water rates this year. And it was based on us trying to return some of the money that we borrowed years ago, right? And then they have a little retained earnings. Now we're not going to do that. Now we're gonna use some of that money to buy vehicles.
Michael, what I'm saying is we want to keep that door open as a possibility. If all else fails and we don't have sufficient retained earnings to be able to dedicate for paying for these vehicles, what we'll simply do is we'll borrow. We'll borrow the money over a period of 5 years and pay it back through the water enterprise fund. I'm just simply saying is let's keep the door open, that if the retained earnings are sufficient to be able to fund these things from cash, then we fund it from cash rather than borrow. That's, just consistent with how we try to run our operation, is borrow to the fewest extent possible.
No, but I understand that, but you know that there's been a big controversy over our issue of how we set the water rates and how high they are. And that we did it, the majority of the board had a plan, and I think we should stick to that plan, even though I didn't agree with the rates. I agree with the plan, but now this is, to me, at least a slight deviation from that, unless I'm not.
No, I'm
understanding.
just trying to be honest with you and lay my cards on the
Yeah,
table.
and I'm being honest with you, that
The-
I won't be in support of using any of this money to buy vehicles. Because, the plan, I think we overestimated